My next guest today is a gentleman by the name of Paul Jacobs. And Paul is a international medium. He is a spiritualist, and he's had many, many years in the church of working with spiritualism, and has been a tutor at the world-renowned Arthur Findlay College. And so without any further ado, I would like to introduce, please, Mr. Paul Jacobs.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. It's always a pleasure to have an opportunity like this, to be able to share my knowledge, my understanding, and my experiences of development of mediumship, and also working with the communication with spirit people to bring that evidence and help and supporting people's grief and physical loss of the loved ones. But even beyond that, it's the greater message, beyond that message of that personal contact, of the philosophy and the understanding, the greater message behind the message, that the spirit is eternal, that we do not have to die to be spirit, we're spirit here and now. We do not have to die to be in the spirit world, because this is another aspect of the spirit world. So there is no separation. It's all part of the stupendous whole, and just certainly different levels of awareness and consciousness. And I very much, after 35 years, still have the same conviction, the same joy, and aspire to still be able to inspire other people, touch other people, reach other people, change people's lives, because that's what mediumship should do. It should bring a change in people's life, where they do not look at life again in the same way. I've been a spiritualist for 35 years. Spiritualism is a religion, and we have to look actually, spiritualism is a religion, a philosophy, and also supposedly a science as well. I think that what we have today, and this is why I spent many years working in the churches as a religion. Most of my work is outside of churches now, even though I still partake in church services, because a lot of people today are turning away from formal religion. And you see, I believe we can get the philosophy and the teaching of the Spirit across without putting people in a religious box of a religion. Religion is man-made. It is just a vehicle that we can use to get the message and understanding across to people. So I demonstrate to many people outside churches, often to audiences who've never been to a demonstration of mediumship before. And I always remember in the beginning, I said to the spirit world, if I ever become a working medium, I do not wish to travel from church to church, to speaking, demonstrating to the same people week in, week out. I'm happy to stand on a street corner. I want to go to places where people will come who would not normally enter the church. In my early years, I caused a lot of problems and controversy within the religion, because I was giving demonstrations in nightclubs and restaurants, and people said, Paul, you're a big name in our movement, and it doesn't look right that you're demonstrating in nightclubs. I said, I don't do anything different to what I do when I'm in a church. I still stay true to what I'm about as a spiritualist and as a medium. And it's touching those new people who would never enter those churches. I find the joy in. Today I specialise more so in developing and teaching mediumship, because I honestly feel from the days I came into this, the development, the training and the standard is not what it used to be. Sometimes people find me quite a disciplined, strict teacher, because it's too loose today. The standard seems to have gone down. It's not because there's not the people with the potential, but they're not getting the right development and training. And I know some students first, when they're used to other teachers, find it difficult when they first come to me because of the discipline that I bring. But if you look at anybody in life, from any walk of life or any aspect, who has a talent, as a gift, you look at those who succeeded, they reached the top. they will teach about speak about the mentor who gave them that strictness and that discipline, which was sometimes difficult. But if we're going to reach a full potential, then there has to be that discipline within the training and a commitment and a dedication. Anybody who reaches the top in anything always has to apply those three aspects, and mediumship is no different. So I'm happy having this time with you, you know, to share what I have. I'm quite happy to go along with whatever questions you may feel that your viewers or your listeners would like to listen to, that maybe can give them some insight in their own understanding and journey. So it's a pleasure to have this opportunity, Lorraine.
Thank you. Oh, and you know, you touched on a few things that I'm going to definitely want to circle back around, but and I was already just really quite entranced to what you were talking about with how you used to demonstrate in a club, and that you were really a bit of a rebel in the early days of your spiritualism within that church. If someone wasn't familiar with spiritualism, and it's true, I agree with you that a lot of people have moved away from the formal teachings of church, and perhaps they found it too strict. If someone was not familiar with what spiritualism is, how would you be able to explain that?
So if I look at the new people I reach in demonstrations, such as in a restaurant or a nightclub, or in halls or hotels, I always give a time for a question and answer session. And from those question and answer sessions, I can move their question into the philosophical understanding of spiritualism. In the beginning, you know, a lot of people, you know, who were friends of mine when I first came to this, thought spiritualism was about death and dying. And I said, you've got it wrong. Spiritualism isn't about death and dying. It's about life and living. It's bringing and explaining spiritualism, and its mediumship is to bring evidences that the spirit can never die, that the spirit is eternal. But the spirit is there within us. There's that divine power, that divine essence. Call it God, call it whatever label you want, no matter what religion you are, that spirit is there and that divinity is there within. And it is through that communication of that evidence of the spirit to bring that awakening of the reality of the spirit within them now, not wait until they die, but to be able to awaken that power, to understand and strengthen that power of the spirit, to be able to be lived and expressed within their own life. There were words I love by Aristotle, and he said, do not exhort a man to man's thoughts, but inspire him to the highest thing that is within him. That's something divine. Because once we can find that reality of that something divine and that power within, and the knowledge that that is eternal and it still exists once we physically die, that power can make a difference to this earthly life. It becomes a reality. It can move us, it can direct us, it can uphold us through all things and experiences. And I know that for a fact because it's done it for me. So if it can do it for me, it can do it for everybody else. And if we look at the world today, I wrote a book in the year 2000, and the spirit world gave me information when I sat on New Year's Eve, and they said we've now come to the end of the materialistic age, which we've had for the last 2,000 years, and we're now entering the new spiritual age, and that if man does not turn back to the spirit, we will see destruction throughout this physical world. This was in 2000, and they said we will see the collapse of worldwide conglomerate businesses, we'll see the collapse of financial institutions, We'll see collapse of even some of the world religions. We'll see collapses of countries, and this will continue until man wakes again to the reality of what they are, because that's the reality of us, the spirit within, because that never dies. Actually, the physical is actually an illusion. You know, quantum physics, that's what they teach. And that's true, that's what mediumship teach. The spirit is the reality. So, you know, this world, or us as individuals, are never going to change for the better unless we allow that spirit to become that reality, and that's what we are, and the way we live it within this world and life. So I'm not bothered whether people go to church every week. I don't care what religion anybody is. I don't care what name they want to give to an icon figure, whether it's Jesus, Buddha, whoever. I don't care what label they want to carry. The most important thing is finding the reality and touching that power of the divine that's there within us, that there, in a way, making a relationship with it, being a part of who and what you are in all that you are and in all that you do. And using that power, it doesn't matter whether you're a businessman, whether you're a medium, whether you're a doctor, a teacher, it doesn't matter. As long as you're using that divinity of that power to do the best that you can with that spiritual intent within it and the power of that spirit within. That's the message. That's what it's all about, really. And the more people can wake up to that, then we'll find the harmony, the balance, the peace, and in a way, manifest heaven on earth and not have to wait to die to find heaven. That's what it's really about. And each of us have got something to offer, because there's something divine within us. There's that perfection that's there. So, you know, if we all have this quality, it may be as a musician, it may be as a businessman, it may be in the medical profession, it may be as a medium. One's no greater and less than the other. If we could all play a greater part with this power of the spirit behind it in every walk of life, wow, what a change, what a difference we could make to the world. And that's all I want to get across and bring that reality. But in a way, I have to encourage people, they've got to discover that for themselves. So by touching somebody's soul through the communication, sending them hopefully on a search to find that reality within themselves. I can say it in words, I might inspire them to go on that search, but I cannot find it for them. That's something they've got to do themselves as an individual.
So in a way, when you're talking about how you're working with mediumship, you're helping to perhaps awaken an individual to a greater or deeper aspect of life. You mentioned this world being an illusion. So it sounds like through mediumship, you are allowing people or helping people to come to the greater understanding of who they are as a person.
That's right. So we have to find that reality of ourselves. So what we've got to look at is, first of all, we are this physical body, encased in this physical body, which we discard when we physically die. But that's not the end. Beyond the physical body, we have more subtle bodies. The next body is what we call the etheric body, which is a replica of the physical without the aging and the disease. Then, when we discard this physical body, we move into the next level of consciousness, which we call the etheric world, which is a replica of the physical world. So when we move to that etheric world, that world is as real and solid to us as this one is to you and me. And as we progress in being able to live and understand and have that relationship with that divinity, we gradually, in a way, we will discard those other bodies, okay, until we become lighter, more subtle, until we become pure soul. We'll have no shape or form, but we still have individuality. So you see, the physical body is the vehicle of the soul, and the soul is the vehicle of the spirit. The soul individualizes that divinity and that power. And the soul comes to this earth to individualize and express in an individual way that divine power of the spirit within. And if we could really understand the qualities and that power that's within our soul of the spirit, then we would find that we could then move forward in our life in a more fulfilling way. But it's being able to understand your own power, understand what will satisfy your soul in its expression. If I look at all the people who've come to me for private sittings over the years, all the thousands and thousands of the messages, everybody's life, everybody's problem in life is the same. Everyone.
What is that problem?
So I'll tell you now. The circumstances may be different, but they are not satisfied, okay, with what they have in life. It may be because of their work, it may be because of their marriage, it may be because of their family, it may be because of their home, it may be because of their financial. They're not living what their soul needs to express. And, you know, so I can often say to them, look, this is the quality, this is the potential your soul has. Does that resonate with you? Oh yes, that feels good, that sounds good. Let me give you an example. I remember a young man, he was only about 17, 18, coming for a private sitting. And I said to him, I says, oh, you're moving home and job and moving to another part, a different part of Switzerland altogether. Yes. You're starting a new job in a small office. Yes. I said to him, you're making a big mistake. He said, oh, please don't say that. My father has set it all up for me. I said, that's why it's a mistake. It's what your father wants for you, but it's not what your soul wants. I said, looking at your soul, you should be looking at going into either social welfare, psychology. And he said to me, I've often thought I would like to do something like that. I said, don't you understand? That's your soul telling you what you need to do to be fulfilled. So you've got two choices now. Do what your father wants and go through life unfilled, or do what your soul needs to do and feel fulfilled. It's your choice. Yeah. So, you know, but most people are scared to live. They're scared of making a mistake. There's no mistakes. Life is simply an experience. You know, I wouldn't take away one experience like that in life, the good, the bad, or the indifferent, because it's brought me to this very point that I'm at now. For any one of those experiences lesser, I wouldn't be who I am now, sitting here with you. And it's in those experiences, in all their glory, that's brought me to this point I have. Yes, I might regret one or two of them in one way. I hope I never have to go through that again. But, you know, even, you know, sometimes I enjoy and embrace the negative experiences I go through. Because when I come through them and deal with them, and I deal with them in a positive, in constructive way, I find I see a change takes place within me. That seems to move me onto another level of awareness and consciousness, which, you know, I wouldn't have had happen if I hadn't gone through those experiences. So you see, you know, the soul is that vehicle of the reality of that spirit. The spirit is no shape or form. A lot of people speak about the spirit and the soul as being the same thing, and they're not. They're part of each other. The spirit is that divine power. The soul gives it individuality. The soul is the vehicle of the divine power of the spirit, the emotion, and the higher mind, the higher consciousness. Because when we physically die, the spirit world is a world of mind. So mind survives physical death as well. So there must be not just the physical consciousness of the mind, there has to be this higher consciousness, which is there and part of the soul within the power of the spirit and that emotion. And that's what we take with us when we move to that other level of consciousness beyond this physical existence.
So what I'm hearing you saying, I really like the way that you're describing consciousness and how your consciousness has, in fact, evolved through difficult experiences. And it really sounds to me like you're sort of stating that although those experiences may have been difficult, and I'm saying this for others too that are may be having challenges at this particular time in their life, but it's the way that you perhaps encountered or allowed yourself to work through those difficult experiences that allowed you to connect with, I guess, more depth of your soul, or deepened your awareness. And is that what you feel challenges in life are meant to represent?
Yes. So if I go back to the beginning of this journey, okay, I was basically on a self-destruct button. I was basically on the floor and couldn't get any lower. I've got nothing left of this physical aspect of life that could bring a change to make a difference. The only thing I got left to turn to was the spirit within. So in a way, I was forced through physical life's experiences to turn to the only thing that there was, even though I had no understanding of it, was that spirit within. It brought an awakening within me, because just in a natural process, which you'll find a lot of people have done, ask about people's stories where they've been on that self-destruct and basically there's nowhere else to go. You'll find many of them in some way, in a natural way, because there's nowhere else to go, they actually went in deep within them and they broke that awakening, that God part, that divinity, that power within, that brought an awakening that made us realise that there's something more beyond this physical. And then that power then was able to sustain us. And when I go through my journey of life and those experiences, it seems as if that power of that spirit within me becomes stronger. My trust, my awareness of it becomes even more so. And that's why now I know whatever comes my way, doesn't mean that I won't find it difficult, but I know I have the strength and power to overcome and come through all things that this world and this life will offer me.
I feel that that's a really good reminder for people to be able to have, for them to trust that they're going to be able to get through difficult experiences. That actually is very, very powerful to hear. And it speaks about your own personal experience of awakening, but I know that others are going to be able to relate to that very well also.
Could
so
I just
you
sorry, can I just interrupt? Can I just mention, because you may have a number of people who will listen to this who are grieving, yes? So what I want to say to people, because sometimes I feel some mediums can become a little bit complacent about people's grief and loss, okay? So what we've got to realise that no medium can take away another person's grief. Okay? What we've got to realise also that, in a way, grief never goes away. It'll be there forever. What we can do is be able to find that relationship and knowledge and that strength of the power, so that power can sustain us, that will overcome the negative of the grief that's affected our physical life. But the grief will still be there.
That's and I believe that that's true, that when we have loss, that we can't ever really make that loss go away. It's always going to be there, but we're just able to continue on and find perhaps a deeper strength within us.
Yes, but also
you mentioned the story, Paul. You mentioned the story about the soul speaking to that individual, where you said, oh, that's not what you're meant to do. You're meant to do something else. That's your soul speaking to you. So help me understand how someone's soul might be speaking to them, or the qualities that need to be expressed, or how does one go about having an understanding of that?
Well, first of all, you need to learn to be able to sit and move your mind and change your consciousness in moving into your own soul and awakening that power, your emotions, and in a way, not in your conscious mind in your head, but through your feelings, understand the power of you, the past, the present, and the potential. It's all there within your soul. And, you know, there'll be even often when we're not consciously trying to do that, but we've all got that inner voice, that silent, still voice that speaks to us. There's that intuition that is our soul speaking to us. And all of us have experienced in one way, particularly those of you who are mothers. You just know with your child instinctively, yeah, and that's something wrong or something's going on. How many times have you thought, you just, in a way, just know you need to pick up the telephone to that person? Many of times, no, I shouldn't go there. No, I need to go there. You see, if we learn that silent voice and that power, and we can respond to it, it can help us as an individual, and then help us with other people's lives as there. It's all there for us, understand? You know, so, you know, I do a meditative practice to take people into their own soul, a structure, but then it's something they've got to do personally and then individually, but I can give them a structure to be able to sort of like try to begin the process of that awareness within their own soul. You know, it's important. And, you know, and also if you look, you know, God's got no hands or feet. Yeah. So, you know, if you're praying for something, okay, you're praying to God for help in something, right? Well, the only way that prayer can be answered, because often it needs some sort of physical input to answer that prayer. Well, God can't do that, all right? So what this divine power, I call him God because it's the universal world people understand. I'm not talking about an individual person, all right? So what needs to be is that divine power, this God power, needs to be able to move you to the person or the place that can help you, or move a person into your path who is the person that can help you with that prayer.
Well, that sounds to me like you're saying that God puts people or places in our lives to help us in response to our prayer.
Yeah, if we can respond to that inner voice, we can respond. You know, I mean, if you think, I would have never done this. I was fortunate, okay, and I believe it was meant to be, that I met the most well-known and respected medium in the world, yeah, and became my friend, okay. And it came through me going into a spiritualist church, didn't know where I was going to, I was just walking past. And it turned out the medium was my great aunt. Then after that, she then telephoned me because I said I was not going any longer, it's not for me. And she says, come with me to the church I'm going to next week, and introduced me to the greatest medium, Gordon Higgins. Now, I would not be doing today if that hadn't have happened. So was that coincidence, or was it meant to be? Did the power of the Spirit move me to that church? I didn't plan to go to that church. I didn't plan to go that day. I didn't know my great aunt was going to be there. I didn't know she knew Gordon. He was friends with Gordon Higgins, one of the best mediums in the world. I didn't know she was going to introduce to me. I didn't know he was going to help me be where I am today. I believe that's what God or this divine power wanted, but I had to respond to the power for it to happen. I could have not responded to that power. I didn't realise I was responding to that power, but that's what happened. And that's what I believe in.
So you're talking about an individual having free will, so the power to respond or choose not to respond, but yet there's still a divine intervention through other people, perhaps through the people that we encounter. That is divine intervention, is it?
That's right. That's correct. Yeah. So, you know, what you've got to look at, you just mentioned free will. A lot of my colleagues disagree with me about free will. destiny. Most of my colleagues believe everything is preordained, is total destiny. So I can't agree with that, because then for me, I believe in a loving divine power, okay, not a destructive negative power, okay. And some of the things some of us experience in life, in the world, I don't believe a loving God would personally create those things. That's been through man's free will, okay. So again, there's a man by the name of Andrew Jackson Davis. He's known as the father of modern day spiritualism, a wonderful philosopher and medium. And he wrote the words, free will belongs to the physical, destiny belongs to the spirit. So I believe that many choices in life happen through our free will of choice. But I do believe there will be certain things that happen in our physical life, if that will happen through that divine intervention, if it's part of fulfilling the destiny of our spirit. But there are then many things that have been purely our free will and choice.
So I can understand what you're saying there about the difference between free will and destiny, and really spirit's will. So I understand to be able to have the listeners have a better grasp of that, because I do hear people talking about, well, I've got bad luck, or I'm destined for failure. I do hear things of that nature. So I feel it's very helpful for someone to be able to hear that we do have free will, and we do have the ability to change the course of our life through connecting with our soul and spirit. So I thank you for explaining that.
Before we carry on, it's like if I do a reading where I'm looking at somebody's qualities, what their soul can manifest to feel fulfilled, I always use the word, that is your potential. It is your now individual choice whether you make that a reality. Does that make sense? So it's their personal choice and free will then, whether they fulfill and manifest that potential. And often when I do it, often after the end, I'll say to them, oh yes, what you're saying really feels right and really feel good, but I can't do it because this, that, and the other. Then I turn around and say to them, well, stop complaining, accept your lot in life, or have the courage to live and fulfill that, what your soul needs to do.
Yeah, so you spoke earlier on about how people are afraid to live. And so when you speak about courage, is that how you're connecting it? Is that a lot of times people actually just are too afraid to make choices?
Too scared that it's a mistake, it doesn't work out, society, people, friends, religion, government, what we want to live and express doesn't fit with those other things or other people. So we make excuses for it, yeah, and don't go along with it. We're here. Personal responsibility is one of our principles. Personal responsibility. Yeah, I'm here, yes, to live my life and fulfill that quality of the expression of the spirit within my soul in my individual way. Yes, so yes, we're here to be of service, to help other people, touch other people, but we're also here to serve and give to our own spirit in its expression as well. People put too many excuses, too many barriers that are there. Yeah, I love changing life. Yeah, and sometimes even when they're difficult changes, because I get bored otherwise if life's too smooth sometimes. Life should be ever moving, ever changing, ever going forward. And so many people just stay so still in one set level of expression, totally unsatisfied with a lot, but haven't got the courage to do anything about it.
I see that. I really connect with that description there. So thank you for taking the time to be able to talk about that. and how we may be held in place with fear and worries about how other people opinions and all, and not following their own soul.
See, and if you look, okay, we're speaking about the knowledge and the understanding of eternal life. Okay, so that's difficult for our conscious minds to understand eternity. But if you look at eternity and this physical earthly existence we have, whether you have 10 years or whether you have 100 years, this physical journey is like a grain of sand in a desert to eternity. And if we could grasp that concept, I don't think we'd be so scared of living. This earthly experience is just a fragment of our total journey of experience of expression. Such a fragment, but it's hard for us to comprehend that 80, 90, 100 years, 70 or whatever, compared to eternity. And if we could, be more open to that understanding of that eternity and that concept, okay, I don't think we'd make so many difficulties. We wouldn't be so scared of living. We wouldn't be so scared of making what we call mistakes.
Now, you talked about the principle of personal responsibility. And I know that that's a spiritualist principle. Can you also maybe share some other principles that may not only help us understand the philosophies of spiritualism, but it sounds like there's real guidance in there for people too.
Yes, there is. It's we don't teach rigid rules. You have your 10 Commandments, and other religions have their structure. We have our 7 principles. And even if you look at our first one, which is the fatherhood of God. Okay, so when we look at that, okay, and if you look back at the Christian religion and look at Buddha's teaching, okay. Buddha said the temple of heaven is within. Jesus said, my Father and I are one. So if you look at the fatherhood of God and what I've said to you about going within your own soul, your own temple, and then that divinity, that God force, that God power within, that is the creator that has given you this physical life, then that's your Father. So you are one. You are not separate from this God. You are actually, in the wonderful words of Sir George Trevelyan, a modern day philosopher and writer, he said the words, and I heard him speak these words, so I've never forgot them. He said, each of us is a droplet of God. And I extended that and said, if you look at the vast oceans of this world, it's taken every single drop of rain to make them as mighty. And if we take this world of you and me, you take out one drop of you or me, and this world wouldn't be as great and as mighty as it is. And each drop is as important as the next. One is no greater and one is no lesser. Yeah? So when we go from that fatherhood, which automatically moves on to our next principle, the brotherhood of man. So if it is that divine power, that God that's within us, that is making you and me one as God, then it means then we are related to every other single living thing. So in turn, that makes us all brothers and sisters. As simple as that. And again, if we could live by that fatherhood and relationship and oneness with God, and in turn acknowledge and respect that every other living thing, and that's whether it's a human being, whether it's an animal, whether it's our planet, with the same respect and love and relationship that's there within our own individuality, together as one. And that's where we make this stupendous whole of life and creation, this power of life and of love.
Well, that sounds very beautiful. And that brings me back to something else that you said when you talked about when we arrive at a certain state, that becomes heaven on earth. And the way that you described that, if we would only sort of be aware that we are all in a way related to one another, that does become a place of heaven and on earth, doesn't it?
So, it's like the kingdom of heaven is within. And so we shouldn't have to wait whether to find the kingdom of heaven. And in a way, when we leave this physical world, depending on what we've lived and expressed, it may be more like hell than heaven when we discard this physical body. Not that heaven and hell are places, they are stated being states of mind on what we've lived and created through our actions, our words, our thoughts, and our feelings. So again, and this journey never ends. We're never going to get to a state of perfection of expression in this short time we have in this physical world. It's a continual journey and progression. And I believe, you see, some people teach within these fields that we're here to perfect the spirit. I disagree with that. If that spirit is that something divine, that godliness, then the perfection is already there. It's being able to express that divinity and perfection within our thoughts, action, words, and deeds. And none of us will do that perfectly. We have to admit that it's not possible, but we have the opportunity. Another principle: eternal progression open to every human soul. And also another one, which is compensation and retribution for all good and evil deeds done on earth. So, your ideal of heaven might be my hell. My idea of heaven might be your hell. So our heaven and hell will be our state of being by what we've lived and expressed. But then whatever we've created in that state of being, we're not condemned to eternity. Again, we continue our journey, being able to grow in that expression of that divinity and that divine power within us. And then our worlds and consciousness will keep moving and keep changing.
And we've talked a lot about consciousness and that evolvement. And I know you touched about a philosopher that spoke about man's need to return to spirit. And we are living in a really significant time of change presently. And do you feel that this is a force back to spirit, or how would you be able to, maybe you said that there's no separation between the physical and the spiritual world. How would we be better understand what's occurring right now?
Yeah, the physical and the spirit world are part of each other. But what man's done for the last 2,000 years, they've put the emphasis totally on their physical aspects, feeding by greed, control, power, over people, and maybe the way we've treated the animal kingdom, the way we've keep taking away from our planet. And if we just keep taking physically from each other, from our planet and all its living form, we keep taking and taking, all we're going to create eventually, but there's got to reach a point where there's no more taking. There's just going to be a simple collapse and destruction. So we're only going to stop this taking to feed one's physical satisfaction, okay? If we're not going to do, we're going to see a lot more devastation in the world. Until man finds the reality, that understanding, we cannot keep taking for our own satisfying our own physical needs, whether that's for power or material gains, doesn't matter which, okay? But, if we keep on doing that, there's nothing left. So if we want the devastation and the negative that the world's experiencing to stop, the only way is to realise it's time to feed the spirit, and there's more to our existence and our being than what we focus on from the physical aspects of life, whether that's its pleasures, its material goods, or the power and control. Yeah, we've got to realise that we've got to start to living with those spiritual qualities in harmony with each other, the animal kingdom and the planet, then turning back to the spirit, allowing the spirit to become the reality, as I said, okay? And this is what I said earlier, then you'll find then our consciousness change and we move beyond this just selfishness, this greed of just satisfying our own personal physical needs. Yeah, because at the end of the day, when you go to the spirit world, you can't take your Rolls Royce with you, you can't take your mansion with you, you can't take your money with you. All you can take with you are your memories, and that's what you've lived and expressed, positively, negatively.
And that just actually touched me because to me, it speaks about really living for the purpose of making these memories, then living for the purpose of having something to have in memory to. So that really speaks to me very much.
That's right. If I look, if there's a lot of people when they come back from the spirit world, one of the things they often come back with is regret. If I'd have only done this, if I hadn't have done that. And the one thing I want to do when I go to the spirit world is I don't want to look back on my earthly life with regret. You know? I want to live life to the fullest I possibly can and to the best I possibly can. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean I don't get things if you want wrong or make mistakes. But I don't want to come back with regret.
I can understand that. So help me understand that if someone wanted to, say they were in a period of transition, they really felt that they wanted to be able to make this change or to have this deepening awareness of their soul and of spirit, if they wanted to shift from that material focus to more of a spiritual focus, how might you best be able to give an advice around that?
Okay, I can only give you just now what time we have in a short summary. First of all, you need to do what we call self-awareness. Really, honestly, knowing and understanding yourself with no blinkers. Look at yourself in its true glory, the positive, the negative, the in-between, yeah? And then look at what is the negative aspect that we can either change to a more positive. Maybe some of the negative aspects there's nothing we can do about and have to accept it's part of who we are. Release and let go of things that have happened in the past that we can't change and alter and stop them having that negative effect on us. But also importantly, which we can also not be good at, is to truly be able to recognise that which is good within us and also recognise that what we've done of good there within us. So you're embracing the positiveness to overpower the negative. But my biggest thing, and some people might think I'm a little bit head in the clouds or whatever, but I know the reality of this, and I know very much so did my mentor Gordon Higginson. Okay, is that for me it is being able to really touch and awaken that God part and make it your best friend. Have a relationship with that power, not just living it in a love and light way. I share with that God part with me everything I'm doing in my life. I let that power know, or that divine intelligence know today that I'm doing this with you today. When I'm anywhere, whatever I'm doing, even in the material aspects of my life, I let it know. I let that power allow my spirit, not just my conscious mind, to experience and feel what I'm experiencing. And I know if we can have that self-awareness first, and then that awaken and really have that reality of that power and a relationship. If we can do those two things, doesn't matter whether you want to be a medium or not. If you do, it will help your mediumship if you do those two things, but you don't have to be a medium. As I said, it can be through that, then you can find your way to give your soul fulfillment. Yeah, again, like I said earlier, then allowing that power to move you, to help you as an individual in your own life and expression, be able to move you to help and touch and make a difference to other people in different ways. That's what it's all about. I can remember quite often, I often go for a pint of beer at an English pub on my own for drinks, which I quite like to do. And you can guarantee a stranger always comes and stands with me or sits with me, never met before. And you can guarantee, not knowing who I am, what I do, they start speaking to me about their problems or their grief. Guaranteed, every time. Yeah. So I'm there, the spirit will know I'm there, or this divine power know I'm there, and then the spirit then is maybe just touching them. They may not realise that's what's happening, to speak to me, to open up to me. Can you say?
Well, it sounds to me like you're saying people are drawn to, they sense that, or spirits guided them to you to allow themselves to be touched or shared. And I know that that's probably true of many people that are mediums or empathics, that they'll say that people are just drawn to them like a moth to a flame. So that's very interesting that you're able to share that experience too.
But if people could do those two things I just said, we wouldn't need mediums. We could make all mediums redundant. We wouldn't need them because they've got that direct access themselves for that power to help them give the answers they need. Yeah, give them that direction, give them the strength to make that next step. Wouldn't need mediums, and this is the purpose. And sometimes I feel this is where mediumship is failing, because we're not, through that, giving that communication and contact, we're not bringing that awakening within the soul of the individuals we're touching, and then mediumship won't fulfill its true purpose unless we have that effect on an individual.
I see. Okay. So when you're describing the true purpose of mediumship, if you could just sort of like really bring that home, what do you feel the true purpose of mediumship is then?
Okay, so yes, I love to help people in their grief. I like to help people on a psychic level with the difficulties and direction with life. Yes, through the mediumistic healing power, I like to help people with their health. But also, yes, it gives people help in that way. But for me, it's also a tool to be able to then move them to the next stage, to bring the awakening of the reality of their own spirit. That's what it's about. That's what it's really about for me. Yeah. Okay, because if a medium does that, a person can't look at life the same. They can start maybe then starting to realise what's important in life, what's not, being able to get things into perspective, and be able to then to start living in a way that's more satisfying to their soul, so it feels content. That's what we need, that's what it's about. I'm not, yes, we can just give people help in a short time, in a short way, to over their grief. Yes, we can maybe help a little bit with their health conditions. Yes, we can maybe help them a little bit with their problems, but that isn't the full purpose of mediumship and what we should be doing. It's that next stage we need to move people to. That's the real importance.
I appreciate you taking the time to explain that, Paul. And as I'm wrapping up our chat together, and I really wanted to be able to say thank you once more for just this opportunity, because you've really helped to even expand my own awareness. And so I'm really very grateful to have this discussion. Tell me, if someone wanted to be able to find you, Paul, where can someone find you? Where can someone contact you? Or you mentioned a book. How might someone be able to connect with you?
So there's my website, mediumpauljacobs.com. You can contact me through there. There's Facebook page, Spiritual Medium Paul Jacobs. So on Facebook, email address paulmartinjacobs@icloud.com.
I'd like to thank you once more, Paul. Really, it's been very, very interesting and knowledgeable speaking with you with so many, many years working as a medium in spiritualism, and as you said, having that Gordon Higginson as your mentor. So I know that you bring just a wealth of experience, and I thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk to you about that. It really has been a great pleasure.
It's my pleasure. I enjoyed, even after 35 years, having a short moment like this, because I could speak to you all night long, you know. I never get tired of speaking about all the different aspects of it.
Well, then maybe that leaves it open to have you talk some more in future. So I know you have a wealth to be able to share. So once more, Paul, I'd like to say thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you very many blessings, and thank you for being of service to Spirit.
My pleasure. God bless, and thank you for the invitation. I've enjoyed the experience with it. Thank you.
God bless, Paul. Bye for now.